It's January 22nd, 2026, and welcome to episode 115 of the Driving Forward podcast. Whether you're joining us live or listening on one of our 18 platforms, including Reach Across America Radio, where we broadcast every Tuesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time, we appreciate your support. Freight Movement, Twin Cities Networking Hour. That's tonight at Fat Pants Brewing in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. It's from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. We'd love to have you come on out. So if you're in the Minneapolis area, you're watching this, we'll drop the Eventbrite sign up on the comments of this. But we'd love to see you out there. There's a crew of people. It is freezing here. It's getting colder. But we'd love to see you brave that weather and come out and join us this evening. Manifest 2026 is February 9th. I think both of our guests are going to be there as well. February 9th through 11 at the Venetian Resort and Casino. We're expecting 7,000 innovative people this year. Tune in to last week. We had some folks from Manifest on and talked in depth about what's changing this year and the evolution of things. This year includes 2,000 shippers, 1,500 startups and investors, and there's 400 speakers that represent 60 countries. So if you'd like to join us, use our discount code and let us know. We'll be seeing you there. That's manifestvegas.com/freight movement for a $200 off code. The end of the month, those prices for Manifest are going to jump. So if you don't have a ticket, you're thinking about going, better to book now than later. It's either tomorrow or the end of the month. I don't recall off the top of my head, but it's one or the other. So take a look if you're thinking. Join us for a Freight Movement experience Monday night at Manifest. That's February 9th, Monday, just following the open session. So it's from 7 to 10 p.m. It's the $1 Million Trucker Bar, brought to you by Venture 53, and it's at 1923 Prohibition. Speakeasy vibes, real freight people. We're going to have a DJ, a photo booth. There's a VIP entrance as well for anyone who's snagged VIP tickets. That actually comes in at the Ice Bar. So we're just a cool experience in general. We're expecting 500 people. Big thanks to Venture 53 as our title sponsor, with Clio, Journey, EBE, GLCS, and Virago Marketing also sponsoring. Grab your tickets on Eventbrite. Also, follow Freight Movement for updates at freightmovement.com. Freight fraud isn't just a headline. Everyone remembers those moments when a load goes dark. It's a phone call you don't want to make. It can be a driver sitting at a dock getting blamed for something that they really had no control over, and a customer wondering if they can trust you tomorrow. This stuff doesn't just hit the bottom line. It hits reputations, relationships, and frankly, your sleep. Because the bad actors, they're not guessing. They're organized, they're patient, they're creative, and more often than not, they're just flat out criminals. They're using the same cyber tactics you'd expect with real playbooks, impersonation, credential theft, account takeovers, and moves that are happening faster than you can possibly imagine and continue to get faster day after day. So here's the question that we're chatting about today. Are we really making progress? Or are things just getting more sophisticated and complicated? Today, I'm joined by Dale Prax and Danielle Spinelli, and we're talking about the last year. We're talking about what we're seeing change over the last year specifically, and how cybersecurity is now tied to freight fraud, whether you like it or not. And we're going there on we're going to go into the sprinter van market too, because that space is messy, it's vulnerable, it's forcing the industry to rethink how verification should work beyond just the Class 8 market. If you're a logistics leader who wants clarity, you're in the right place. So Danielle and Dale, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for having us, Nate. It's always great to see you. You too,
Absolutely.
Danielle. It's always great to see you. You're like my partner in crime, except I'm like the Robin to your Batman.
There you go. We need to get that superhero persona for Dale. So
I know
figure out what it is. So yeah, absolutely. But Dale, you were just up in Minnesota over the holidays. I didn't get a chance to meet with you while you were here, but I did see you made it out to see Jason Nesbitt at So I saw that you got to go spend some time there, and you were on Sirius XM with him, I think, at that time.
Yeah, Jason was with us. We were recording our Christmas special with Derek Bars, the administrator of the FMCSA. So I wanted to bring Jason on so that the audience and Mr. Bars could hear some things from a motor carrier perspective and what it means to him to see those drivers out there busting their butts on Christmas Day. And I really think that Derek Bars has a real soft spot for those motor carriers out there doing such a great job for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I was glad to see you on that episode. I was glad Jason. I've been trying to get Jason to join me on this podcast for a while. But I've known Jason for 15, 16 probably years now, maybe more. So, but quite a long time. So, and rumor has it he might be at Manifest coming up here too. So,
that'd be nice. I'd like to see him again.
Yeah, absolutely. Danielle, what have you been up to? How was your holidays?
Holidays were good. I am in full-blown basketball season for all three kids, so that's my life. Today I have all three kids at different schools, so starting at 4:30, at 4:36, 7:30. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but yeah, that's my life right now.
That's not that I don't know that. I guess my life never really got completely there. I had baseball I had to deal with, but the kids are older now, so don't have to deal with that and chasing around. So
yeah, my holidays are like that too, but it's all good. I'm loving what we're doing, and then busy with work stuff too, because we're finishing out our official year. It ends at the end of this month, so it's been wild to officially get people signed up and do a lot of educational pieces on carrier vetting and things like that.
Awesome. All right, so why don't we do a quick introduction, just so anyone that's listening and not watching or doesn't have access to everything. Quick introduction, Danielle. Who are you? Who do you work for, etc.? And then Dale.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Danielle Spinelli. I am part of My Care Portal, also with MacroPoint. So Descartes, My Care Portal, MacroPoint. We handle carrier vetting and onboarding as well as visibility. Kind of just really getting a 360 view. We partner actually with Dale Prax as well, and do kind of a 360 view on a carrier, so you really know who you're working with. And then I also have a podcast on the side called Tell Me Everything, where my side persona that Nate helped me create, or he created for me, Fraud Girl, gets to come on and talk all things cargo theft.
You took it the rest of the way.
It's so fun. But yeah, that's me.
Fair enough, Dale.
Well, my name is Dale Prax. I've been in this industry for going on my 34th year. I founded Freight Validate, which is a identity and compliance verification system to try and weed out the bad guys. I do a lot of speaking and engagements. I'm with, I'm an advisor to companies like truckstop.com. I really try and work hard with the industry and the agency, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, to bring us all together and collaborate to make this industry better. I think honestly, we got what we deserve, but now we have to get out of the hole. And so, working with people like Danielle and you and all these people that really have a passion for making our industry better than we found it, and to make the people behind us learn a little bit more about it and give our wisdom to them. That's what I'm all about. I want to make the industry better because it's been, frankly, it's been very good to me and my family for 34 years. And the industry deserves me to give something back to it.
Oh, I appreciate that. I look at it the same way. And largely that's why I started doing what I was doing, is going back even 15, 16 years ago, why I switched from being an operator to helping companies. So, that path gets more powerful the longer you do it. So you get a louder voice if you choose that. So, appreciate that completely on both sides. You both have loud voices. So, all right. So when you guys look at the last 12 months, what's the most important thing the industry still is misunderstanding about freight fraud and cargo theft?
I guess I'll start with that. I think that the one thing that's been missing for a long time, not just last year, but it's really become more prevalent in the last year, is what you mentioned in your opening remarks: cybersecurity. We've just kind of wiped that to the side and said, "Oh, it's just just another thing we have to worry about. It doesn't really affect fraud too much." Well, a lot of times it's a catalyst of fraud. It's what starts the fraud, the phishing attempts, and all those kind of things. And these guys, there's a return on investment for a bad guy. They work very hard. This is their job. Some of those guys are way better at tech and innovation than we are. And for the last year, we've been playing, for the last 10 years, we've been playing a lot of defense. And what I'm seeing in the last year, from the administration down to all of us that are working harder, I think that we've done the recon. If you want to go take a Army or Marine Corps analysis, we've done all the recon. We know what's going on. We know the bad things. We know the terrain. The problem is we've never switched to the war fighting part, start pulling the trigger and getting the bad guys out. And I think this administration has really started to get more on the offense. I think that a lot of vetting companies got more on the offense and less on the defense. And that's what we have to do, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. We have to not just detect it, we have to prevent it. We all see it out there all the time, but until we start preventing it, it's going to keep eating us up. But that's the one thing in the last year that I think that we have really overlooked. We keep talking about cargo theft and all those kind of things. Those all matter. But we have to we got to stop worrying about the symptoms and go to the problem that started it in the first place. In a lot of cases, cybersecurity.
I can agree with you more on that. I also think driver level vetting. I think we've really honed in on carrier level vetting. There's a lot of great tools out there, but we're kind of at the point now where in order to really get to the source, we need to go on a driver level. And then that also brings back in the shipper and kind of their responsibility. I think we need to do a lot more education with shippers. That's going to be my biggest focus this year, is getting more on the shipper side to educate more. Because I think hand in hand, if on, brokerage or carrier side, we're working more on driver level vetting, and then the shipper's also there to authenticate it. Really, that's where a lot of things stop, as well as with cybersecurity.
And I think an important piece of that too is if we don't go to the driver security vetting part, we don't get to the bad guy that hired them. Yeah. So we've got to be vetting out the driver because, and I'm really tired. I've said this on a couple podcasts, a couple news things, that I'm tired of seeing the driver's face on the TV screen or the social media thing that caused the accident. Somebody hired that guy.
Exactly.
That's who we've got to be going to. So when there's in our platform, we just started identifying non-domiciled CDL and English language proficiency. I don't care who you are. If that guy was put out of service for English language proficiency and they have a fleet of 300 trucks, he's not the only one violating that regulation. So we've got to get the driver level vetting to the carriers to start taking them out.
Yeah, and I think
Chris has good crew up here.
I love Chris.
Mr. Arredondo. Look forward to seeing you at some conference in the near future. Hopefully, sooner than later. It's last time I saw you was October. So, I think when we roll back to when fraud started becoming more prevalent, a lot of us said that there's this driver shifting that's happening. When one thing goes bad, everyone moves to another location. Not everyone, but many of them move, and they move fast. We saw them move extremely fast. So I'm not surprised. And it's also the more difficult thing to track when you get down to it. It's not as easy. It's obviously a lot easier to track a company than it is to track hundreds of employees at that company. So I do agree that locking these things down to the driver level and following the path of the driver, if someone is shut down or taken out of service for whatever reason and then instantly switches to another company, that's a flag, right? Especially if it's happening 5-6 times a year. Now, drivers have a tendency of potentially shifting their jobs frequently regardless. So, but there is behavior behind this that should trigger some event and review. And Dale, you and I have had numerous conversations around the possibilities and what the carriers look like behind all the activity. So splitting back over to the cyber side, phishing has become so advanced in the last 2 years, really the last 2 years, but it it has been so empowered in the last year. If you do not have defensive countermeasures as a company to reduce your phishing attempts, and you should be using some sort of AI to empower that, because it is very smart. We just deployed a new level of it here at GLCS, and we offer it to our clients as well, but we're piloting right at the moment, and it's pretty amazing. It's reduced a substantial number of emails and attacks on a daily basis. I think last month alone, we had 1.2 million hits against our router too. So that's crazy when you get down to it. And that's just passive attack. So,
Yeah.
And, the other thing is, Nate, that I think that people kind of miss out on is, they're watching the phishing email attacks come in from maybe another carrier or from another broker or something, like trying to get their information. But in the last month, actually the last 2 months, since November, the FMCSA's website has been the most phished thing going out there. I mean, I just talked to the agency on Friday, and they put it up on their website. And you should be checking the FMCSA's website of the alerts that are going on, things that they're seeing happen to them. And on FMCSA's website, they just put up another one that we talked about last week, where people are sending out emails saying that, you need to re-register. We have MODIS coming up, so you have to do your re-registration. FMCSA sent that email out to everybody to get them ready for MODIS, but it says dot.gov. Other people are sending out says dot.pro or something like that, and they're clicking on it, and then, you have to pay $2,000. Okay, I pay $2,000 because otherwise I don't want my license, my authority to be taken away tonight. And so I think that we have to, one thing that's important when it comes to cybersecurity, any kind of fraud prevention, is we got to slow down.
Yeah.
I mean, that shipment is still going to be there in 15 minutes. Take the 15 minutes, sign up for Nate's program, do these things that will prevent you. The most expensive way to do business is the cheapest way to do business, right? If you're not spending money on doing the things to protect you, you're going to spend the money later tenfold.
And with phishing, what's funny is like around Christmas time, I mean, I think I don't know if it's just because I'm known as Frog Girl and they're trying to get me the heaviest, but I swear I had more hits on like your Amazon shipment is tracking, click here. And it's not just logistics companies that they're trying to hit you with. It is like all over the map, posing as Amazon, posing as whatever else out there. I mean, they really get to kind of know you as a person. It's funny because now with AI, I mean, they can read your profile, like your Facebook and your Instagram and your LinkedIn, and kind of see what things you purchase and what's in the background of your photos. Right. And then from there, orchestrate a direct phishing, like spear phishing attack, where they know who you're purchasing from. Hey, this looks like this person had whatever in the background of their house, and so they probably buy this product from them, and let's send an email from them. I mean, they're very smart with this, and they now have AI to help them and make that faster.
We find we've had many cases where people have had their email compromised, but yet no major activity is used other than a bad actor is going to take the information. So, for example, if you're getting wire information for payments from customers, boom, you get hit. So boom, that person who's sent the wire information. So if you're moving that via email, those processes need to be looked at differently. But people will just sit and monitor email and do so passively. And there's many ways to get around that, including regular restarts of your computer. But you look at how this can all come about, and the fundamental steps take care of the vast majority. Multi-factor authentication does reduce a lot of things, but we're finding that people that bad actors are finding their way around that even. So, I mean, you might have MFA on your email, but yet people still get hit. People still, find that. And then they exploit everyone that they can passively.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you look at multi-level verification. For a while, the federal government got pretty good at it. It was a mandate across all federal agencies to incorporate multi-level verification. FMCSA, the transportation industry is always last. We're last to catch up on technology. So FMCSA was kind of last. So the problem is every time that we do something, every action has an equal reaction, right? So we said, we're going to do multi-level verifications. The FMCSA is saying this, right? So what the bad guys do? Okay, when I buy your MC number, I need your email address and your password. So when I get that multi-level verification coming back to me, it's going to come to me. Oh,
And
I'm
your
going to buy
phone
your
number.
cell phone number. I'm going to buy your phone and everything. So when that text comes to me, I'm the guy. And that's why I'm a real proponent of companies like CloneOps, right? Facial recognition and voice recognition, eventually AI is going to catch up with that too. But we've got to get ahead of what we're doing now. And that's probably the next step.
Right. I'm going to read a comment from Travis here. AI and basic vetting will eventually eliminate these dumb phishing attempts and low-level scammers, but we shouldn't get comfortable. AI will stop the amateurs, but it won't be a shield against a professional who knows how to exploit the system from inside. Real safety still requires human expertise. Unfortunately, cyber tools, it's just a straw in this fraud bale. So I agree with that in a lot of ways. I think that you have to have those defensive countermeasures out there, and you still always have to train. So
Yeah, I think training is the biggest thing too. Like the educational pieces on all of this carrier vetting, fraud, cargo theft, everything we're talking about is simply comes down to education. And I'm so happy that as an industry, we've gotten to the point where we do share those stories. Like I just had a call the other day about not a customer, just somebody hit me up on LinkedIn and was like, "Hey, I just got scammed with an agent scam." Totally ripped off like a couple $1,000s. They were getting fake email or carriers in there, like a whole big scam. But that's something I never even heard of. And so having those open lines where we're educating each other on new scams that are coming out, that is how we can stay ahead.
Yeah, I think that education is very key. I also think that relationships and partnerships matter.
Yeah.
One of the problems, and I agree with what the caller said there, that AI vetting tools, algorithms, all those things, we have as an industry have depended on those as crutches rather than tools. We need to use these products as tools, not as the end all be all. Human beings have to look at the tool and say, how do I use it? How do I use a screwdriver? Right? Not that hammer is not going to put up the sheetrock. It's a tool for you to use to do it. It's the same as AI and any kind of vetting tool. Stop using it as a crutch. Be a human being. Do your due diligence. Use the tool to get you there faster, but don't make your decision for you.
Couldn't agree with you more. Oh my gosh. Literally my biggest thing I preach, and this is every new customer I get on my side too with carrier vetting, is that I can give you all the tools. I can give you all the quick red flags that you need to look into, but you need to look into them. Like it's not a clear yes and no, because those bad guys know the little escapes that we have, right? And each time we build something new, they're coming out with another thing. Having a line of defense where you have multiple things that you're checking in different spots will help you be the one where they're avoiding you and they're going to the next guy who isn't as good as carrier vetting and he doesn't know how to ask all the questions and things like that. So that human element back in it, if you know what you're talking about, you scare them and they're going to go and run somewhere else.
You know, we hear it all the time that, I use this vetting company, I use this onboarding company, and my load got stolen.
Yep.
9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, it's not the vetting company, it's your process.
Correct.
You use the vetting company, you had all the risk assessments, but you just decided to do a manager's override. Mm-hmm. That's a process problem, not a tool problem.
And even when a carrier looks acceptable, they're buying those acceptable carriers. I've every single platform out there, they've looked.
Yeah, and that has to be.
Yeah,
that
yes,
has
and
to
that
get up.
There's still steps that happen even if they're acceptable. You still need to look at their kind of like, I like it when you see like location insights, right? Like where are they running at? Like kind of like, let's get a pattern of what this carrier is like and get like a feel for them. That takes that human intervention going back in and kind of having those conversations with the dispatchers, even just like asking like, general questions about freight and like general questions like what kind of lanes do you guys run and things like that. They stumble over those type of things because they're not all in logistics.
Right. That I mean, just the simple act. So I'm going to get caught up on a couple of comments here. So first off, Michelle Mays says hello. She followed up with this. She said, go down the rabbit holes. That leads to things you might have never known. And I think we all agree there. You gotta pull on the rope that's dangled in front of you to see what comes out of it. And Michael McCart says AI will be vetting AI at some point. It's actually already doing that today. Yeah. And a basic phone call may prove to be the best tool, which is exactly what Danielle just said. So also, when you're grabbing that phone number, you go to the phone number that, if it's previously established relationship, you go to the phone number that you have on file and you call the home office and you ask for that person. If it's someone who's setting up new, you need to do research on that carrier and ensure carrier, broker, doesn't matter. A shipper, even in this case. I mean, you can have all of those go south on you. So you have to, reach out through the website and ensure that you're asking those right questions, just like Danielle said.
And there's a lot of sorry.
I'm sorry about that, Danielle. I want to hit on something else that Danielle said that's really important, is how things change very rapidly. Every action, as I said before, every action has a reaction. It came to the FMCSA saying, we're going to really hit hard on vetting on new applicants. So the bad guys just say, I'll buy my own. I'll be in business tomorrow, right? I'll be in business tonight. They'll buy the MC number. And the problem with that is there's no regulation for the FMCSA to control the sale of an MC number when it sells by itself as an asset. They recommend that you go in and transfer the name and everything over. But in 2016, Congress took away that requirement from the FMCSA to vet the new guy that comes in there. I've submitted some proposed rulemaking. It's made it through the administrators. Now it's in policy. It should be coming out for comments pretty soon. That puts back that responsibility for the FMCSA have to review the sale. The other part of that policy making says that if you're the guy selling it, you are responsible until that title transfers. Just like if you had a car, if it doesn't transfer the title, you're responsible for the next accident that happens. So we're really working really hard. And once the comments come out for that, I'll put it out on LinkedIn that we should all be responding to that and get that taken care of. We should not just be suggesting that you change your phone number, the owner of the company. So again, every action has a reaction.
And even them saying, hey, you need to do this, they're not following laws. They don't care about laws anyways. But I think putting the responsibility back on that original carrier will make at least it where those carriers who are responsible and they do care about the industry, that they will, do the right thing. One other thing I was going to...
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
One other thing I was going to point out is I think I can't even talk. Another thing is the shipper side. Like, I think talking to shippers and I've been talking to big brokerages, and they're going back to the basics with each shipper that they have, no matter what type of freight that they have, with educating them, telling them what they have, and then also understanding what their process is on the shipper level, and then putting that into their contracts. I think holding them accountable as much as they hold everyone else in the supply chain accountable. Let's go back and forth. And that is how we can kind of put some pressure back on shippers to do the right thing and vet. And if I'm checking all these things on my side, right, I got all these things. I'm not there. I'm not sitting in the truck with this guy. I don't know who he really is. At the shipper, you can see everything. Now, what happens after they leave the shipper, that's a whole nother story that we can get into, but that's getting back to kind of the old school cargo theft.
So Michelle says that happens a lot. Closed due to insurance lapse. Next day, a new MC, new company name. So yeah, she's agreeing with everything we're saying. And to comment on the shipper side, if we can, and we've been saying this one for years. This whole gap closes when your good actor shippers start to work more with everyone to vet the driver level. Whether you have a government entity that we're able to pull on, or data that we're able to pull on that identifies those drivers, even if the broker or the carrier, whomever supplies their information to that shipper, a lot of this stuff just goes away.
Yeah.
And I think it's
the shipper verifies, the shipper verifies.
But the insurance lapse part is interesting because what I've been seeing a lot with whenever the sale of a new MC is they typically like it when it's towards the end of that 30-day window of their policy, because they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll pay you extra for this last month. I'll go ahead and get my own insurance. And then really they're not going to go get a new policy. Sure. And we're seeing a lot of that happening right now. A lot of insurance companies are seeing that. And because theft isn't covered, I mean, what the original carrier who is holding the insurance is like, it wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. And so really then everyone's getting out of paying for anything.
Yeah, I'm going to go back a little bit on when we talked about shippers. And I think that Danielle hit on something really important when she talked about education. I think that brokers have an inherent responsibility to educate the people that pay them money. I think that they should be in there saying, I can be your helper. I can be your intermediary with you and the carrier. However, you're the eyes and ears on the road, on that dock. You're talking to the driver. You can tell if he's speaking English properly or not. You can tell if this VIN number matches what you have in there. You can do all those kind of things. I can't do it from 3,000 miles away. You're 5 feet away. But right. I think we have to have more education from the broker side. And I've done this for several brokers, and I'll do it for anybody. I don't charge you for doing it. I will do a webinar with you and all your shippers, and we'll come together and talk about what their responsibilities are. And we have to have those sort of education. Brokers should, I believe have a responsibility to train the folks that they're taking money from.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. Yep.
I'm gonna comment just briefly. I'm gonna actually just skip to the statement here. So Mike McDonough says, carriers and brokers, if you are fearful of fraud, you can ask the FMCSA to place a verification on your company. Meaning any changes to your account need to be verified by the person appointed to verify information changes to your authority. So I think we were talking about that earlier. We might have been talking about that in the green room earlier before we started, but anybody have any comments on what Mike said?
Yeah, one of the comments I made in the green room was a specific action that happened in the last couple of days, so it's really fresh in my mind. Even though they have these processes in place, it's not foolproof. I think there has to be more done. The example that I made in the green room was there was a motor carrier who went into the FMCSA's portal, did his facial recognition verification, signed his MCS 150 biannual update electronically with his name, and it all passed. This was done on December 30th, just 2 or 3 weeks ago. The problem is that person has been in ICE custody since Thanksgiving. He doesn't have access to the internet. He doesn't have access to an iPad. He doesn't have access to MCS 150. Somebody impersonated him and made that change. So I don't think anything like that is foolproof. I think that maybe you can get with the FMCSA to do those sort of things and they'll help you out, but you have to go a step further and do things on your own too.
That's why your TWIC comment you always make, I think, is huge.
Right.
Kind of getting back.
I'm surprised that hasn't come out yet. But let's start with the quick comment when we come back from break here. So we'll be back in about a minute and a half after this message.
If your fleet's downtime looks like chaos, you're missing out on GLCS. In the time-critical world of trucking and logistics, every minute counts. Meet GLCS, your expert partner in managed IT and technology services. We integrate seamlessly with your team, bringing seasoned IT professionals with deep trucking and logistics expertise. Imagine your software updates running smoothly, complex issues resolved quickly, and operations humming with efficiency. GLCS has your back. Our support doesn't just fix problems, it prevents them with our industry connections and proactive approach. We keep your trucks rolling and your brokers working. Think of us as the added resource your company needs to unleash its full potential. Visit glcs.net today and keep your business driving forward. GLCS, where efficiency meets expertise.
All right, Dale, let's hear about TWIC cards.
I've been talking about this now for about 3.5 years. And I said in my first LinkedIn post I think I ever did in my life, I said we could get rid of 90% of fraud if we required every owner of every trucking company that had 5% or more ownership in that company to have a transportation workers identification credential, where he's got to meet in person, put fingerprints down, do a Homeland Security background check, and do all those sort of things in person. I mean, imagine the things that would solve. We know who he is. We know he's in the United States. We know if he or she has fingerprints or a background problem or any of those kind of things, and we've seen them in person. That could even go over to the problem we have with security as far as safety, right? If we would tie that into the new entrant audit, do it all at one time. Make sure the guy's safe. Make sure he's got drug consortium set up. Make sure we know who he is. All those kind of things, rather than waiting for 12 months or 18 months or 2 years to run a new entrant audit on him after he's already killed 3 people, right? So I think you can tie all this thing together. The other point is that who in their right mind would sell their MC number if their TWIC card's attached to it? Because if you sell it to a bad guy, your name's attached to that thing until you get it cleared. Who would buy 3 MC numbers? You can't, because your TWIC is attached to it. There's an ID attached to it. Now, if you want to buy another and you have a good reason, you look at Landstar, they have 6 MC numbers. That's great. You can have 6 MC numbers, but they have to be disclosed to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And that's the part we're missing.
I think even that helps with like, I mean, obviously non-domicile English proficiency, the things that they're wanting us to push on, logistics and safety levels on that. And on top of it, helping safety make our roads safer. I think just national security wise, like I heard a stat the other day where I was talking about just the amount of, or excuse me, I saw an article the other day where I was talking about a cartel ring of a massive trucking company, and they were smuggling drugs from like areas of the truck, just like insane things that they were doing, multi-million dollars. I think there was over 600 arrests with the company. And so, I mean, this is a lot more than, cargo theft or people in logistics getting hit. It is a national security. It's killing people on the roads. This is such a big deal. And I'm glad this administration is taking it more serious, but I don't think it's still at the gravity that it really needs to be, because this really does affect everybody.
I don't think we've even begun to grasp the entire measurement of it either. I think we're just starting to grasp that.
Whenever I met with the California Highway Patrol, and they were talking about, like, one of the big things I asked was, so whenever you're making that arrest, do they have ties to other drug affiliations? And they were like, yeah, basically the cargo theft that they have and the logistics rings that they do is funding all of the other, bad activities that they do, the sex trafficking and stuff like that. That's how they're getting started in it.
Travis says dealing with professional Potemkin villages, which that's a interesting question. But Potemkin is I think he was a Russian prince that created these fake villages for Catherine the Great when Catherine the Great was touring Russia, if I remember right. So just to define what he's saying there.
I said Pokemon. I was going, what?
So he says, I've witnessed firsthand how these rings buy aged clean MCs and mask ownership changes, simple management update to bypass insurance audits. I've seen even giants like Prime Insurance fall for it. I think we've seen every insurance agent fall for, or every insurance agency fall for it. They trick the FMCSA by using sophisticated forgeries to bleach their safety records through data queues. When the federal system and insurance gatekeepers are being outplayed, it proves that green lights and vetting tools, and then we run out. So, it's extremely complex. And these are, I think you guys are both going down the road of how advanced this is. And this is organized crime. I mean, that's, you might have some small actors out there, small groups, but in many cases, when you start following the money, you get to something much larger than that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we all are familiar with, and if you're not, you get familiar with the CORCA Act, which is the Combating Organized Retail Crime Act. That's both the House and Senate, both parties agree with it. We got to get that thing pushed through. The good news is, in the meantime, there is a bill that's been passed by both houses. It's ready for the president's signature. Probably happen when he gets back from Switzerland. That makes the district attorneys in most of the heavy crime areas put together coalitions to start reading out drawing organized crime thefts. So that's already been approved, and
so excited for that.
There, the president will probably sign that in the next week or so. But that's going to give the heads up to get this CORCA Act signed. And if I recommend everybody contact your senator, your representative, tell them you want CORCA signed right away. Yeah. So I would work on that. Nate, I want to go back to one thing you talked about a little bit in the beginning about, again, with these switches of MC numbers and things like that. I keep saying this, that every action has a reaction. If you look at the 17,000 people that lost their CDL licenses in California, for instance, or the 6,000 in Minnesota, or the 8,000 down in Texas, right. That's a lot of drivers, a lot of CDL drivers are lost their licenses, right? We have not taken all those guys off the road. We put them in smaller vehicles. You talked about the sprinters. Yeah. This is where they're going to, right? And so the problem is that FMCSA doesn't regulate sprinters anything under 10,001 pounds like it does a big truck. So lease agreements don't matter. ELDs don't matter. DOT number on your door, hours of service, none of those matter. So for the bad guy, this action having a reaction, I don't have to pay for 18 tires anymore. I don't have to speak English. Right. I don't do any of those kind of things. I'm still a danger.
Yeah.
In many cases, the Sprinter van freight, they can target differently because there's more definition around it. You're picking up a load, but you're determining what that is in many cases. On the Sprinter van side, that makes it extremely vulnerable on the fact that there's not as much regulation. Now, I don't know if you had seen that the NMFTA is going to roll out further identity verification for non-Class 8 carriers.
Yeah.
And they're centralizing the issuance through their SCAT codes. So if something isn't functional, there's a potential that they're going to remove or disable SCAT codes. And a lot of the booking of freight is done through that. So if you don't have an active SCAT code, at least they're stepping forward and saying, we're going to jump down that path. I think they just announced that too. So
Yeah, I was just
excited to talk about that.
It was just yesterday. They announced it yesterday. They're doing facial recognition verification. Just like, again, when I said this in April of 2023, facial recognition verification needs to happen. People looked at me like I was crazy, said it was a bridge too far, says it's Big Brother. No one's going to fall for it. No one's going to do it. Now everybody's doing it. So I guess I was just a little bit ahead of my time. Just talking about the SCAT code part, the U.S. Department of Defense, Energy, all those companies use a SCAT code as their real identifier, right? I had an hour and a half long meeting yesterday with the Department of Defense, some generals down in Tampa, SDDC, talking particularly about this. And they're depending on the SCAT code more than anything. And we all know that right now, I know that the NMTA is fixing this to make them kind of go with the DOT number. Right now, if you have a SCAT code, it will stay valid until you either don't pay for it or you decide not to renew it. A DOT number is not associated with that. So in the conversation I had with the DOD yesterday, we found that they in one day, they gave out 32 loads to a carrier who had a valid SCAT code, but no DOT number. His DOT and MC number was revoked 2 months ago. And they're still giving him loads. They're giving loads to, if you're familiar with 675 freight, it's more of a kind of a sensitive freight with the FMCSA. It's called signature and tally, which means you have to track it all the way through beginning to end. You cannot broker that freight. It's illegal to broker it. You cannot use a trip lease or a short-term lease to do it. It has to be a long-term lease with the name on the door, the whole 9 yards. I was able to point out to them that there were 44 loads given to one driver who's a one-truck operation, who took 32, he owns a Ford F-150 pickup with a trailer. He got 54 loads, RGN loads from Atlanta or somewhere in Georgia to Florida, 127 miles. They paid him $2,000 per load. He brokered every single one of them out. Yeah. So you want to talk earlier about national security, as Danielle mentioned. That is a national security problem.
And that's simply walking out and checking who's picking up your freight. And this is the government. Come on, people. This is
a conversation I had with the government last week was when Secretary Duffy said, we need to hold his exact quotas. We need to hold shippers to account. That's exactly what he said in his press conference. The Department of Defense is one of the largest shippers on the planet.
Yes.
I think that we need to get in there. I know there's some OIG stuff going on right now to kind of get that fixed. But if I were the Department of Defense, I would say, let's be the example that he talked about. Let's show the rest of the world how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Travis had said earlier, that using I'm not even going to categorize this as AI. I'm just going to call it any solution. You can use all the solutions on the planet, but if you're not going to use fundamentals, so just simply, human interaction, human verification, make this become far more robust and your defenses are far stronger, almost to the point of being infallible, as long as you're not skipping steps and not paying and directly paying attention to what's happening. I understand the mistakes of the URLs, whether it's fmcsa.gov or whatever other prefix on there or other dot address on there. Those can happen, right? That's human failure to check every little thing. And of course, I don't know about you, but I get about 1,000 emails a day, maybe more. So I'm not going to check every one of them. If they look wrong, I'm going to stop. So there are areas where we simply can't verify everything to the level that a solution can, right? Yeah. So using those solutions for that, but we're back to what's the shipper doing, and are they verifying the people that are showing up to pick up the load are correct, or are even taking the right action? So, and in a government contract, you have this defined out in that contract, and we shouldn't see deviation from that. They should understand what that contract is.
There's a solution out there called Bird's Eye Security. I'm having them on my podcast in February. I just recorded with them, and it's what they're doing is super cool. It's basically like a virtual guard check, and they're scanning every bit of the truck that comes in and automating that process where whoever's coming in is scanning. They're going to then integrate with different vetting solutions, and it also either pulling in like the shippers risk assessment, especially safety levels, since they want to make shippers more accountable for safety. They can even have it ask certain questions. I mean, a lot of these things can be done without having like manpower, because I get that it's difficult to have a dock worker who's getting paid minimum wage to walk out there and check something, and he literally could care less about anything. You know what I mean? I totally get that. But I think there is tools out there that, yes, that you have to take in, invest in. But if you're really wanting to protect, especially like the Department of Defense, like you can protect all these things, automatically, or having one person check things and just know what the process is. And kind of like what you said earlier, like tech is there to help. And even like AI agents and stuff like that, I'm big on don't take jobs. Like I know there's like a big push for AI agents, carrier sales. And I was a carrier sales rep. Please don't take all the jobs. That's what I did and loved. But anyways, what I was getting at is, AI basically is there to enhance jobs, and just like every tech and vetting platform is there to enhance you and make things faster, but it's not ever going to replace a human.
Yeah, I think one thing that's, when we went through the COVID deal, y'all remember the PPP loans, how fast we ran that through everything, like thousands of pages, but we had that rush through and we had loans out in people's pockets in less than 2 or 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if the government put that kind of speed toward, when I talk about the TWIC cards again, they all have a chip in them, right? So why don't we take the chip? You have to plug that into your ELD. That says who you are. Then you get to the shipper, you plug the chip in. I'm the guy picking up here. You get the receiver. I'm the guy picking up here. It's all within a TWIC card. There's enough security to be able to do that. Hell, I pull up to Dunkin' Donuts, says, "Welcome back, Dale." Right? I get things in the state of Wisconsin say, "You ran through this thing. You owe me money for using my highway." We should be able to do something better as far as technology.
And it's
it's already out there. Yeah. I mean, think of how many, I have apps on my phone. I go to my gym, for example. I walk in the door and it starts prompting me as I'm walking in the door. It knows who I am. It's verifying. The gym is verifying I'm supposed to be there. It allows me to check in and everything just automatically as I'm coming in. So we have to just get creative on how to piece, not even creative, put the pieces together, because there's a lot of creativity that's already out there. Yeah. Travis, I appreciate that last comment too. It's good to be out here putting out the good fight, just like all of us are. And there's a lot of people that have come forward to champion this cause across the board over the last few years, and that's been exciting to see. So I want to spend the rest of our time answering this question, because I think we sort of have answered this question. But the core question of the episode is, are we making progress or just getting outpaced by sophistication? So I think we've all kind of answered this question in some way, shape or form, but are we actually making progress, or are we getting outpaced? So Danielle, why don't you take that?
I'll jump in first. Actually, when you asked in the beginning, I actually end up Googling CargoNet, seeing if they have the 2025 stats out, because I felt like this past year, it was trending down. And then I think right after the holidays and stuff, it kind of picked back up. It did jump quite a bit. I mean, we were at like a little under $500 million. Now we're at, quarter or 750 billion now with cargo theft. So it is going up still. I think we've made huge improvements as far as education pieces go, tech out there that people are actually using and implementing. I think huge things, but I do think, as soon as we come out with one thing, because we're not slowing down and putting in that human interaction again, I mean, I'll keep preaching that forever. I think that the bad guys are just going to come out with something faster. And tech isn't difficult to build. They can do the same things we can do. And so it's kind of putting our heads together and doing that educational piece. And I think that's the only way we're going to be able to make a stop, as well as having the government put stricter times and conviction rates and stuff like that on this type of thing, not just considering it a nonviolent crime. It is really impacting, when you hit our supply chain, you're impacting everybody's lives here in America.
I think we're making headway, but the problem is we're building all the friction and all those things are happening. So we're making a lot of headway in the ways we're stopping fraud, but the fraudsters are pivoting. So we got to find other ways to get around that next time. And Danielle made a great point about the FMCSA having the ability to impose civil penalties is important. Currently, the FMCSA in 2016, there was a case called Riogis versus FMCSA. Administrative law judge ruled that the FMCSA couldn't be the judge and jury. They were a regulatory agency, so they couldn't impose a civil penalty. So those $30,000 fines for coercion, all those kind of things just went away. There's a bill in Congress right now, Senate Bill 337. Deb Fisher, a senator from Nebraska, brought that into play. And there's a Representative Eleanor Norton from DC on the House side. But it's giving the agency back that authority to impose civil penalty. The problem is that was introduced in the 118th Congress. That went away. It's been introduced in January again to 119th Congress. It probably won't even see daylight until we see the reauthorization bill for the Department of Transportation come up at the end of the fiscal year. But we're hoping, again, write to your congressman, say, give back the authority to impose civil penalties.
And that's why us preaching about this as often and everywhere we can is important. I think if you are in the logistics industry, even having this conversation, like hopefully over the holidays, you went and told every single family member that you have all about this. A, it's super intriguing. It's great conversation. And B, you never know who they know. I mean, they may know Trump and Trump signs all these executive orders and, you just never know who knows what. And even getting the light on, major news networks, that's been a huge change this year. We had nothing prior to 2025. Right. And this year we have lots of spotlight on it.
Thank you, Guy Fieri.
Right. I mean, even there, so I do think we are making headway, especially like with getting things out there. We still have a ways to go, but I am very hopeful in the fact that I think we're going to see some sort of light of day as long as we kind of all band together and talk about this to anybody and everybody. They scream it from the rooftops.
Yeah. I learned something really important. I went to Washington, D.C. with the TIA and the policy forum. And I've dealt with senators and representatives before, but one thing I learned was very valuable when I went the last time is it used to be that they listened more to lobbyists and to the big trade organizations and associations. They're listening to X. They're listening to LinkedIn. They're listening to the regular people now more than they ever have before. I had a meeting I was with Charles Gracie, and we had a meeting with Marsha Blackburn's office last Thursday. And we talked to her about, the reason we contacted her is because she and Senator Klobuchar from Minnesota have introduced a bill that says, let's use TSA data to try and find out the fraud, mostly because she's from Tennessee. Memphis is a big crime area. So let's use TSA data to try and stop that since we have, so much data. And the reason for my call was since TSA, you're doing this pilot program, why don't you add to that bill or make it a companion bill that says TWIC cards for everybody? You're down the right path. So now let's add on to that and make it a companion bill because companion bills matter, right? So we had also with Tim Burchett, we met with him, his staff also. He's the new Doge guy on Capitol Hill in the House. He likes it too. So people that are mattering, and again, I'm not a trade organization, but the senators, the most important thing I learned is senators don't want to hear about reports and numbers and all this kind of thing. They want to hear stories from their constituents, how it affects them.
Yeah.
Because the constituents vote.
I mean, like little me, talked to CNN not that long ago. I mean, like you can do things as a regular old person in logistics by just trying to have a voice and screaming it from the rooftops. And I really think that is the only way we're going to get ahead of this. So
Nick Shirley has become a verb. Go out and
right.
Yeah. Fair enough. I think there's definitely progress. But with progress in this type of scenario, with progress, as Dale said, creates more fields of combat. I mean, really, we're winning here, and things are going in all kinds of different directions. Additionally, I don't think we've fully measured everything out there. So if freight fraud grows in size, I think we're classifying it correctly or more correctly now than what we've done before. This has been a problem that I've been in the industry 30 years. This has been a problem since I first entered the industry. We would have freight stolen, typically in hot markets, whatever the case may be. It's just bigger now. It's bigger. Say again?
freight theft, and now it's a lot more strategic because mainly just because technology has evolved. And another thing too, like how you guys were just saying, kind of like more progress comes from friction too. I really hope that we don't get to the point though with all of this, tech that we have out, that we are vetting out good carriers too, because that's something that is happening a lot, where you're making a carrier look bad, even though they're really not. You just don't have all the information ahead of you. And so I think that's something we need to be really cautious of as we get into, trying to make a stop to this.
Yeah, again, that goes back to, I think we talked about using these vetting platforms as a tool rather than a crutch, because now the vetting platforms, they're saying, oh, a load got stolen, I was on this vetting platform. So now the vetting platforms are becoming too overzealous to having too many restrictions in there and not looking at the right things. And so then that's what causes the bad guys to do things. Like for a long time, it was like how many inspections you had.
Yeah.
Don't use a guy if you didn't have enough inspections.
Right.
So the guy
That means nothing.
The guy would go buy an MC number that had plenty of inspections, right? So again, every action has a reaction. We have to be real careful not to be too overzealous. Like you said, Danielle, it's so important that there are some good drivers that don't get business. Like a driver could work at Yellow for 30 years, have 3 million miles under his belt. Yellow folds, he goes and buys a truck, can't use you until you're in business for a year. Bad guy goes buys a MC Authority, he's working tonight. The good guy sitting home can't feed his family.
Right. That's exactly where I was going. Is we're taking these actions to lock down potential bad actors, but we're locking down good. Actually, we're locking down more good than bad in some cases, because the bad figures out the problem and just moves to the next resolution to it. So, and in some cases, how do you predict where they're going to go? And we'll have to wrap up here, but how do you predict where they're going to go? I think that's, just like with any intelligence group, that's the problem, is where are they going to approach the industry next? What's the next exploitation that they're going to find? We can only guess at that. So you have to lay in all the foundations and all the defense. If you really get down to it, they need intelligence too. So they need that information. So that kind of pulls us back into the cybersecurity side and cybercrime side of this. If you are going to be an open book to them and allow them to see all of your data, and they can take action on that data, they're going to be able to find out whatever. They're going to be able to use their countermeasures against our attacks. To Dale's point, we are going more on the offensive now than what we've gone in the past. But if they can see every move that you're making, you can attack all you want. They're not going to be there.
The other point that I think is really important is that how we vet carriers and brokers. Too many people use subjective data first to vet. Subjective data. Subjective data can be manipulated to make it look any way you want to look, right? Objective data is where you got to start. Is the guy in violation of a federal law? Is he who he says he is with 100% certainty? Is he in violation of Secretary of State's information? Those are all objective things that you can say, this guy's in violation of the law, don't use him. Now, if he passes all that, we can start talking about subjective things. How long has he been in business? How many inspections he had? How many, kids he have? Whatever you want to use. But I think we have to start with objective first. Kick those guys out.
Real fast, because I have a vetting platform and I'm heavily involved in the development piece. The thing, like you mentioned, whenever you as soon as a load gets stolen, you blame the tech, right? Really, you need to go back into blaming your process and re-reviewing everything and really deep dive into each cargo theft. Also letting your tech know, hey, this is exactly what happened. This was the hole. Can you guys build something? I think jumping from tech to tech just because something was stolen is absolutely absurd. You will keep having issues. And I think pushing tech companies to be scared of losing a customer just because they didn't build some subjective data point that really doesn't even matter is wild, because that is what's happening. We get a lot of pressure on my side of like, why don't you have this showing and that showing? It's like, it puts a lot of good carriers in a bad light. Maybe it would maybe stop one guy, but it would shut down all these carriers, because there's a lot of people that just go to that yes or no thing and they don't do the extra process. So whenever you are talking to a vetting platform, I think it's so important to understand that you pushing back and canceling just because of this and that. Let's focus on, are they innovating enough? Are they looking into whatever cargo theft trends are happening? Are they educated in that piece and building on that, not just staying dinosaur to it? That's the type of platform you want to stay with, because that's at the end of the day going to help you educate and get your process down. Not to plug my care portal, but there's my plug.
One last comment, Dale, and then we got to wrap her up.
if a load gets stolen, it's not the fault of the tech. It's the fault of the process. The first place you look is not your laptop. It's in the mirror.
Right. I agree completely. We all talked about, if you fix the vehicle wrong, it's not the wrench's fault. So that it's a great analogy. All right. So you guys are all going to be at Manifest. Looking forward to that. I'll be sure we get you all hooked up with whatever we can get hooked up with here. Looking forward to seeing y'all. It's been a while. So, you always have that holiday pause, and then we pick the world back up again, late January, early February. So
I've been feeling the conference. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm staying a few extra days too. So I'm going to wind down after this one because this conference beats me up. So Danielle, where can people find you?
Best way, honestly, is LinkedIn. So Danielle Spinelli. Also, you can follow my podcast channel, Tell Me Everything, also on LinkedIn and YouTube and all that stuff too. Kind of speaking along all these same lines we've been doing is that fraud girl piece that my passion project side piece on my podcast, because I try to get as many great people like you guys on the podcast to educate. And there's always new trends out there, and it's hard to go to one spot for that. So that's me.
Dale.
You can reach me by email at info@freightvalidate.com. My website is freightvalidate.com, and I've been known to post on LinkedIn here and there.
Here and there. Yeah, I've been pretty dark on LinkedIn since about June. So I make some comments. I post every once in a while, but I have chosen to focus on other things at the moment, although I'll have to get back into it. So
good for you. That's healthy.
What's that?
I said, good for you. That's healthy. Good job.
I
have willpower.
Yeah, I just, it's been tough to come back. So, I spend extra time in the gym. I do whatever. So, just a little less social media. So, although it is something that I need to pick back up. So I hope everybody is safe this weekend with this nasty storm coming through. We're going into the deep freeze here in Minnesota. -20. I think tomorrow school just got canceled. So yeah, that's not a wind chill. That's a straight up time. So Dale knows all about Minnesota. So
that's why I'm driving.
So does Danielle, but
that's exactly why I'm loaded up and I'm driving to Isla Mirada, Florida this afternoon.
One of my favorite places. There's a Wahoo Bar and Grill. Have you ever? Yes, one of my favorite restaurants on the planet. Yeah. Wahoo Bar and Grill. I can sit there all day. I look over the sandbars and watch the boats come and go and do whatever. But I have probably spent too much time wrapping this one up, so we're a few minutes over. I appreciate you both. Yeah, it's the Minnesota goodbye. There you go. Appreciate you all. So we'll see y'all soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks, Danielle.
So freight fraud isn't just a bad week or cost of doing business. It's pressure test on your operation, your culture, and your leadership. And if there's one thing that's clear right now, it's this: that the bad actors aren't slowing down. They're going faster. They're getting sharper and more technical, which means that the response can't be luck. It has to be discipline. We talked about that. This is where cyber meets freight, where identity, access, and verification matters as much as your rates and your routing. And the companies that win in this next chapter won't be the ones who panic. They'll be the ones who build repeatable habits, tighter vetting, smarter controls with better training, and a team that knows what off looks like before a load ever moves. If this episode hits close to home, don't just nod along. Take action. Pick one process you can tighten up this week, one control you can add, one training reminder you can run with your team. Small moves done consistently can create a major impact. And if you got value from this conversation, share it with someone who needs it, an ops leader, a carrier rep, a shipper contact, somebody who's tired of guessing and wants clarity. So stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching.